Welcome to Mysterious Goings On. We're going to get right to the show after these messages.
Hi, this is Michelle Cox. I'm the author of the Henrietta and Inspector Howard series, and you're listening to Mysterious Goings On.
Do you ever have one of those books you pick up and you just thought, oh, I'll just kind of skim the beginning and, we'll see where it takes me and I'll get to it when I get to it. But then the next thing you know, you look up and you're a quarter of the way through because it's so gripping. Well, get ready. You're getting ready to meet the author of such a book. And I am very excited to welcome to the show Bunye Ngene, who is a Nigerian author. He currently lives in Munich, Germany. Debut novel, The Bodies That Move, was published in November of 2020. It's a finalist in the 2021 Next Generation Indie Book Awards. His writing in German and English is inspired by the uniqueness of everyday life and the interaction between different social groups. But I've got to tell you, this book, The Bodies That Move, which we're going to discuss today, along with his writing life, is gripping and well worth a position at the top of your bedside reading stack. Bunye, welcome to Mysterious Goings On.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I guess you're used to being showered with so many accolades about this book, aren't you? It's a great book.
I would say yes. I mean, the last few weeks have been very positive. I can't complain.
Could I trouble you before we talk directly about the book to ask a little bit about you first?
Yeah, of course. Like you rightfully said, I'm originally from Nigeria, but I currently live in Munich, Germany.
Yeah. How long have you lived in Munich?
A little over 10 years now. I came October 2010. So it's been, a bit over 10 years.
And I take it you like it okay?
Yeah, I do, definitely. I mean, I studied the language. I have a bachelor's degree in German language and a master's in German as a foreign language, so it's, the perfect country to be in with that educational background, I think.
I admire your facility for languages. I studied German in high school, and let's just say I don't know any German.
Not even Guten Tag.
I know Guten Tag, and I know the U.S. I know a few other things, but very, very little. As we Americans often do, I point back to my grandmother, who was full-blooded German, but she grew up in America in Baton Rouge near New Orleans. So she just sounded like a Cajun. She never once said a word of German to me, so I just didn't know. Bunye, are you originally from Lagos, Nigeria?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious how much geography and point of place has played a role in your writing. It's, as far as I understand it, I mean, I think to a lot of American listeners, it will seem rather exotic to go from Africa to Europe and flourish there. But not only to do that, but to be an accomplished writer. Tell me a little bit about how do those certain flavors have mixed together for you?
I think it has a lot to do with the family I grew up in. I grew up in a family that really valued education. So my parents had 9 kids and we all studied. We all have a bachelor's degree at least, So for them, it was quite important that we all studied something. So I didn't really have a choice. I had to study something. But they were quite liberal when it came to the topics itself. They give us the freedom to choose whatever we wanted, as long as we studied something. So I think when you have that background, it sort of opens doors for you when it comes to mobility and going to other countries, I think.
And I assume Germany was generally it's welcoming to you?
Yeah, it is. It's been nice. I mean, of course, I've had, bad experiences and good experiences as well. I think it would be a lie to say it's all been perfect and nice. No, I've had bad days and good days, but it's been mostly good. I have great friends here and a nice job, so I'm good.
Okay, this is the big question. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, get ready. Are you loose? Are you ready for the question? Here it comes.
I'm good.
All right, here we go. Hit me with that. How do you like the food? Tell the truth.
I mean, after 10 years, you get used to it, Alex. I can't complain right now. At first, it took some getting used to. The first 1 or 2 years was just extremely challenging. But I think by the fifth year, I got used to the knödel and the Schweinebraten and all that. So now I'm good. I can eat almost anything here in Germany.
I just had to ask. I have one of my best friends. He lived in Germany. He was stationed there, of course, in the military for a while, and he loves the food. And now he's back in America, and he makes it at least a couple of times a month. He sends me a picture
Yeah,
of this massive spread with these very Germanic names of the food that I
yeah,
can't pronounce, and he loves it. But
yeah. I mean, of course, you always have the beer. So if the food is bad, you can always switch to beer. So yeah, you never lose. I mean, I love beer, so I'm good.
okay, that was going to be my next question. Very good. Okay, well let's talk about the bodies that move. I was put in now. Don't laugh, but I was put in mind when I started reading this story. And I should just say, I'll just say, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, The Bodies That Move tells the riveting story of a young man who decides to migrate to Europe in search of greener pastures. His journey takes him through many transit cities, safe houses, and detention camps in Nigeria, Niger, and war-torn Libya, and sees him cross the Sahara Desert. On his journey, he meets other travelers, each with unique stories. They are all united, however, by the desire for a better life in Europe. And Bunye, the thing that came to mind there, the singer songwriter Sting. I don't know if you're familiar. He did a song on his most recent album called Inshallah,
Okay.
which tells the story of these poor people trying to get from Libya across the Mediterranean,
Hmm.
and it tells the story of a parent trying to keep his child afloat. And
Hmm.
of course, inshallah means, isn't it, if God's will? I
Yeah,
think that's what it means.
I think that's what it means. Arabic for God willing, I think.
God willing, right.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
God willing will survive and get to this brighter shore. And so when I was looking into your book and starting to read that, I got that similar vibe. Um, I guess why did you? What prompted you to go this direction with the story?
Um, I think the main inspiration came from just living here in Germany because before the corona pandemic, the most discussed issue here in Germany was the so-called refugee crisis. It was a very political issue, a very controversial issue that pretty much split the German society into two factions. So you had those who were open, who felt Germany could do more to help the refugees, and then you had the other groups who felt Germany had done enough and had to close its borders. So just being around that issue, being in that environment, I think it would have been difficult for me not to write about it as a writer. I think, it was just everywhere. You couldn't escape the topic. And also, as a German language teacher, I had the privilege of working with a lot of refugees, most of them from Africa, but a lot from the Middle East as well, from Syria. So I've had to teach a lot of refugees, and just being around them as well sort of inspired me to go that route, I think.
That's not a situation that is isolated to Germany. Of course, United States,
Yeah.
we have our own. There are two camps basically.
Hmm.
There are those who believe a rising tide lifts all boats, and then there are those who believe we let too many people in, will swamp the boat and sink the boat.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think there are valid points on each side.
Right. Yeah.
My issue, though, I just my problem. I get not a problem. I guess my humanity gets in the way, though. I have a daughter, and I just cannot imagine. Again, back to that song, trying to keep her
Hmm.
afloat across this great sea just to
Yeah.
get her somewhere where she'll be safe and maybe have a shot at a life. So it's a troubling subject, but your book really explores all the ins and outs of it, and it does it through the eyes of all these characters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me more about that. How you arrived at that device for the book? Did you initially think I'll just do it through the eye of just one character meeting a lot of people? Is that how it went, or tell me more about that?
Well, first, the main aim of the book was to humanize the refugees in the first place, which is why I tried as much as possible to present their point of views. It wasn't
Right.
about the Europeans and how they saw them, because I felt we have enough materials on that. Like every newspaper has some information about what Germans think about refugees, but there are very few articles about how the refugees themselves see their own situations, how they perceive it. And that was my aim with the book, to present their perspective and also to humanize them as well. Initially, it was supposed to be about Nosa, the main character. But as the story progressed, I started including other stories. And I thought, well, he's not going on this journey alone. It's not a solitary journey. He's going to meet people from other countries as well. So it would be unrealistic for me to ignore these other stories and just concentrate on one person. So as the story progressed, I had to include other characters from other countries as well, which required a lot of research because I have characters from Cameroon, I had characters from I think it was from Uganda. I've never been to any of these countries. I don't know a thing about these countries. So I had to do a lot of reading and a lot of research in that aspect, so yeah. But it's just mainly about presenting the perspectives of the refugees. That was the main goal of the book.
How about a mundane writer question for you?
Yeah.
Do you have issues? I love what you're saying, and this is interesting. I think a lot of. By the way, I'm not talking down to Americans, but we're a fairly insular people when it comes to travel, and I think a lot of Americans just think Africa must be the same as the United States. Everybody goes all over it. No, it's massive. It's huge.
It's huge. I think it's 2 times the size of China. That's what a lot of people don't even know.
Right, because on the globes here in America, it's like a little thing. I'm like, no.
And they're all somehow distorted. Really, the maps you guys have is the reality.
I say this all the time. I said this to my daughter. I said, young lady, America's maps are the most arrogant maps you'll ever see in your life. They are. But if you get the map where the map of the world where you flatten out.
Yeah, and then you see the right proportions. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gosh, Africa's huge.
So
like I say, as a fellow writer, when you're having to do your research about, you said Cameroon. You talk Niger. A friend of mine used to be ambassador in Niger, and
cool.
He told me so. And I learned his sister is actually my friend, but I listened to him speak often, and she's told me many tales and stories. And when he was there, I think it still is today, a deeply impoverished country.
Yeah, which is.
In the stories, because people say, oh, he was an ambassador, but he was part of the diplomatic corps. He was not the fancy ambassador who the president appointed because he gave money. It was a legit, So when I hear you say, though, that you're doing the research about the different cultures, and I think that's the other thing, too, is to understand, and that your book offers, is that Africa is not monolithic.
It's not, no.
There's so many countries and so many cultures within the countries themselves. It's
exactly.
It's ridiculous. I'm going to make an assumption. You correct me. All right. There's more than one culture in Nigeria, is there not?
Actually, there are over 300 cultures in Nigeria. And what a lot of people don't know is Nosa is a tribe in Nigeria called the Benis, from the Benin Kingdom. Nosa is Beni. I am not Beni, I am Igbo, which means I had to do some research into Nosa's culture as well. Remember the part where you went to the festival with the king? I had to do research on that because it's not my culture. I know I have kind of like a superficial understanding of what the Benin culture looks like. I know what the language sounds like if I hear it, but I'm not like steeped into it. I had to do some research. Why does the Oba dress the way he dressed? Why does he have a white handkerchief on his mouth when he speaks? I had to, go into all those things. Even though I'm a Nigerian born and bred, I still had to try to find out about those things, so yeah.
Well, I think of Uganda. All I frankly know is Idi Amin, and he's been gone forever, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't even know what's going on there. Or I know the name Goodluck Jonathan. I know some of these names of different politicians there, geopolitical players throughout Africa. But of course, Libya. Americans are a little more acquainted with Libya due to our turbulent history with Libya. My goodness, the theme song to the Marines, United States Marines, mentions the shores of Tripoli, for goodness sake. So
really?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
How imperial of us, yes.
You said it, Alex. I didn't say it. So
Bunye, I will just say this, and if Americans listening want to turn it off, fine. You're missing out if you do. America has a lot we can learn from the rest of the world, and I think that we should be open-hearted and humble and respectful, and that's what I'm very, very excited to speak with you. Anyway, so continuing on. What the question I was really getting around to after the cultural question, though, is okay. This is right in it. I asked a lot of male authors this, and I asked a lot of female authors this.
Yeah.
Writing from a female perspective, do you find it challenging?
No, surprisingly, no. When I started the book, there wasn't supposed to be a female character. Let's just be frank about it. Um, and then as the story progressed, I thought, well, isn't it a bit, I don't know, um, I felt I had to, open up my mind a bit. I mean, I'm a male writer. Why does all the characters have to be men? I could write about women as well. So it is a way for me to challenge myself as well, to include a female writer. And it wasn't something I struggled with because I think irrespective of one's gender, the human experience is quite similar, especially when it comes to challenges and, pain. We all feel pain in similar ways, whether you're a man or, of course, yeah, the crimes committed against women are a bit more unique, let's just put it
Yeah.
that way,
Yeah.
for example, sexual assault. As a man, I don't really have to worry about it on a daily basis. Women have to. But just that sense of pain is quite similar, irrespective of your gender. So I wasn't thinking so much about the gender of the characters as more about their stories. I think that was what I concentrated more on the stories of the characters and not so much of the gender. And I hope I did a good job with the female characters. I'm not sure, but I mean, no one has complained up until now, so I think I did well.
I think you did. Well, the reviews are the proof of the pudding. Yeah,
Yeah,
you make a great point, especially when we're talking about the refugee status. I mean, men have to worry about one thing, but women have to worry, sadly, about
of course. Yeah,
not just survival, but prevention of being raped or being
exactly. Yeah,
sold into sexual slavery or
yeah,
all these things that men. It's just not going to happen. I think men seemingly run the risk more of being killed
yeah,
defending their families or just in general or being robbed. Women have all of that plus the sexual, and it's not sexual really, it's because rape is a violent act, but they have that angle going
yeah.
against them. So it just, to me, I think you succeed that even if it's not overt, there is that undercurrent in these characters. There's we say here in the United States, sleep with one eye open.
Yeah.
And I think women in particular do that far more than men, and I think males have a hard time recognizing that in general. That's why I want to ask you as a writer
Hmm.
if that was in there, and you of course just nailed that answer very
Yeah.
well. Is Tell me though, Bunye, more about the research process. I'd love to know how long it took you to write the book, how much was research, and here, this is real inside baseball. I love to know this, okay? Because I'm in the
Yeah.
middle. I'm in the middle of my eighth book right now, and I research as I go along. I'll even hear a podcast or a news article or watch a documentary, and I'm taking notes on my phone. And then when I'm writing, I will write down those notes at the top of where I'm writing that day. If it fits,
Mhm.
great. If it doesn't, I cross it out. Love to know your process, particularly in regards to adding those wonderful nuggets of verisimilitude into your stories.
I think we have a lot in common, Alex. I also do the same. I research as I go along. I mean, there's certain aspects that I try to research on before I start writing, especially aspects that I consider to be very essential to the story. So I try to do those research before I start writing. But you're a writer, you know how it is, things change, the story takes its own turn. And as an author, if you're a good author, I think you go where the story leads you. You don't fight it because you,
Right.
you end up losing. You can't win that fight against the story. So of course I have to also do a lot of research as I go along. The important aspects that I researched on was the daily lives of the refugees, because I
Yeah.
mean, it's a work of fiction. It's not an autobiography. I'm not a refugee. I've never experienced this before. So I had to find out what it was like, just daily mundane things, like feeding, interacting with other refugees. What do they do in their free time? How do they sleep? How do they bathe? These are things that most of us don't even think about, on a daily basis. We just do them. But for these people, these are, special occasions. So that was something I did a lot of research on, just to understand how their lives looked like as
Hmm.
refugees. Another aspect was the smugglers. How do you smuggle hundreds of people, in some cases thousands of people, from one part of the world to the other without getting into an airplane? That was something I did research on. Just the whole logistics of it. So those are like two aspects that I did a lot of research on, and just like you said, I just did them as I went along.
Anything surprise you? Did anything jump out? Were you writing along at one point in the book, and all of a sudden you learned something or found something, it came at you, and you went,
Hmm.
that, as you, to add on to what you just said, that
Yeah.
absolutely has to go in the book somehow, and found a way?
Yeah, how modern the smugglers are. They use iPads and
Oh,
those things. So you have a list of refugees, and then once they've paid for the transportation, they send the information to other smugglers somewhere in Libya. So you have a Nigerian smuggler who has the email address of a Libyan smuggler, and they just send the list per email. And I just, for some reason, I didn't see that coming. I didn't think that was a possibility, but that's how they operated. And that was something that I just thought, oh, okay. I mean, it makes sense, but I never thought that it could be a possibility. And that was something that, it just really struck me. And I thought, well, I have to put that in somewhere, and you had one of the smugglers with an iPad, reading out the names of the refugees. So I thought I would put that in.
yeah, that blows me away too, because it just doesn't fit the
Yeah,
stereotype.
yeah, the narrative you have, yeah.
Yeah, and there's that. Tell me a little bit about how you write. I know that's a little bit cliche for a writer to ask another
Yeah.
writer, but I want to know: are you do you handwrite? Do you type? How many hours a day? What's your process? I'd love to know.
Um, I'm a very emotional writer, which means I write whenever I feel like it, which isn't a good thing to say because I think as a writer, you're supposed to say, "Oh, I write 5 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'm always writing." No, I'm not
Right.
always writing. I write whenever I feel like it, and I think that's my biggest challenge. Feeling just have this motivation to write because most days I know what I want to write. I have the ideas in my head. I have the notes, and then I sit in front of my laptop and nothing comes out. I'm just staring at the screen and it's staring back at me. So I'm a very depends on the day of the week. Usually I write for about 4 hours a day, 4 to 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, when I get to it, 4 to 5 hours a day. But then I'm a very slow writer. So in that 4 to 5 hours, we're talking about 1,500 words,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's not really much, but
You know,
yeah,
I feel this. I've met a fellow traveler. Pardon the
yeah,
puns here, but I same. I used to write every day. My daily life doesn't allow it anymore. And although I think as I get older, it's just I have a harder time. I don't see how Stephen King does it. I read he writes what
yeah,
2 to 4 hours a
exactly.
day.
Yeah,
And that's
I'm reading his book on writing,
the
this
best.
memo. Exactly. Yeah. And he has this, it's like a job every day. When you write 1,000 words a day, you get 80,000 words in 3 months. And I'm thinking, well, good for you, Mr. King. That doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work for me either. Yeah, I even suspected. I talked to a writer friend. I said, he's got to done what Richard Patterson did. He's got to have some people, just a stable that feeds him. But I don't know if that's true. I doubt it. I think King is just a very rare animal. I'm showing Bunye something, listeners, on the screen. You see my phone here. You can't really read it, but I just want to show you. You can't really read it. This is a text I got from a listener.
Yeah.
It says, and I got it last night at 8:05 p.m. Okay, what time is it there now? About 8 o'clock? Where is it? Where is it?
It's 6:30 right now.
6:30. Okay.
Almost 6:30. Yeah.
This is from a reader. She got my number years ago. How is the book coming? And I was like, and I get this. She used to call. Now she texts. She gets it. I said, "Hi, draft almost finished. Probably ready to send to editor in June. Sorry, so slow." She said, "That is all right."
Now,
So,
do you know what, Alex? When I was writing my book, The Bodies That Move, I didn't tell anyone I was writing a book. No one knew. My friends didn't know. My family didn't know because I didn't want to get texts like that asking me how to go. That's the worst question you can ask any writer. So I don't ask people that, and I don't want to get it. So
but you know what? I take it as a compliment since she's loved.
yeah,
It's for my series. I do, Mister.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
You are very. Your work is very literary. Mine's very genre. So it's a compliment. But I got to admit, there were times during lockdown because I did not do well during lockdown in writing, where I would get those from her every couple of months or at a call, and I just have to explain to her the muse is not here. But what prompted me to start thinking about her, though, was what you said. I went from every day to where now I write in bursts. I'm an emotional writer too, I guess. I love the way you put that. I write on weekends now because I don't feel like I should be doing my day job. I don't feel like my wife and daughter understand. Dad's going to go upstairs and close the door, and I can get anywhere from 2 to 5,000 words in a good weekend doing that.
Okay.
4 to 6 hours. But I just can't. I don't understand. I can't do every day. So I'm always curious to see how others do it. And you compose at the keyboard, right? You don't
Yeah,
use.
yeah. No, I don't read. I have terrible handwriting. I can't even read my own handwriting, so I just type everything in. No, I can't.
I should have been a doctor, as they say here, because my handwriting is so poor.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever tried to use the dictate function on Word?
No, and I don't intend to.
Tell me why.
I don't think. Well, because for me, every sentence takes me about 5 to 10 minutes to construct. I'm someone who I have a sentence in my head and then I say it out loud. I talk to myself a lot when I write, and I tend to walk around, so I don't sit still and write. I
Oh,
don't
interesting.
know. I don't, it rarely happens. So I write better when I stand. So I have this idea of a sentence and then I say it out loud and I walk around a bit and then I come back to the laptop, then I type it in. And that's why it takes me so long to get 1,000 words.
But you get your steps in, which is great. Your
I
health
get
is.
my steps in, exactly, so I'm always active. I don't know. I think the whole dictator thing, it just isn't for me. I would struggle. I don't know.
Well, but yeah, I'll tell you why I bring that up. I've never done it until I did it for a nonfiction book on podcasting. I did because that's easy. I just tell what I know. So I tried it a few chapters on my new novel, my new fiction, and I just tried it. And you know what? It's been kind of helpful to me just to kind of get stuff on paper. So what I do, I just kind of verbally vomit it all out. Pardon the graphic word there, but it's on the page. So I'll do that until I get those scenes written, so to speak. Then I go back and I spend the rest of my writing day just getting them shaped up to look
Just
like,
yeah.
you know.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you this. I don't think I could do a whole fiction novel that way, but occasionally when I get stuck or I'm just cranky and I'd rather just kind of just talk to myself like you do, but have a record of it that I can go back and play with, it seems to work. But I'm always curious about that kind of thing. So, Bunye, as we're talking about the book, though, you've been nominated for a very nice award. How do you feel about that? Did it surprise you? Were you jumping up and down? Did you tell anybody in your family you got nominated? Tell me about that.
Not yet, because it hasn't officially been announced. The result is going to be out ending of this month, ending of May. So by next week, it should be on the website of the award committee. So I haven't told anyone yet. You're the first person I've told.
I feel very special.
You are special, Alex. So I mean, I felt, of course, it's kind of like a confirmation of what not what you already know. It's like what you want to hear. Let's put it that way. Because
Right.
I'm a self-published author. I couldn't even get any literary agents to take the manuscript. So they start to deal with this self-esteem issue, and then being a finalist of such an award, you just feel like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm not wasting my time. I think
Yeah.
that's just, the feeling you get, like, okay, I'm actually on the right path. So it's a good feeling to have.
Now, are you writing fiction in German as well, or is this book going to be in German as well?
Fiction mainly in English. I've written a non-fiction in German. I find that it's easier for me to write fiction in English. It's in my case more of like my first language, so I can play with the language a bit. With German, it's more, scientific terms. I'm good with that. It's quite straightforward, dry, clear cut. I can do that in German. Literary writing in German is something I would struggle with. I've written a short story in German as well, so I could do it, but it would be more work for me, of course. So I just stick to English when it comes to fiction.
What are you? You're one of 9 children, as you said.
Yeah.
Are any of your siblings writers as well?
Yeah, I have a brother who's a writer.
Does he write fiction, nonfiction?
He writes mainly children books and comics. That's sort of his thing. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Is he still in?
Yeah. He's
Nigeria?
based in Nigeria. Yeah, all my siblings are in Nigeria. I'm the only one in Europe.
Do you get home much? Do you go home?
Yeah, I mean, I try to, once in every 2 years. I was supposed to go last year, but thanks to Corona, we all know what it's like. So I had to cancel the trip. Yeah, but I intend to maybe sometime later this year or next year. Yeah, but I try to, once a year, once in every 2 years.
That sounds great. Now, what's on the horizon for you? What are you working on something you can talk about, or are you just kind of taking a break? Or
I'm working on something, on a second novel, but I can't tell you what it's about.
well, you said I was special, Bunye. Come on, you can tell.
You're not that special, Alex.
Oh wait, how did my wife get on this call? I love it. I love it.
I'm a little bit suspicious. I don't like to talk about my plans. I like to keep things wrapped until I'm ready to share them.
As you should, should. Well, as we were speaking of wrapping things up, or as we're getting ready to wrap up, I'd love to know if people want to stay in the groove with you, they can go to Goodreads. I know that.
Yeah.
You're on Insta, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And on Facebook as well.
It's Facebook. Are you going to do an author website down the road, you think?
Yeah, as soon as I get enough content, because I think there's nothing worse than having a website that's empty. But it's better not to have one than to have one where there's just one or two pictures in it. So I'm just, waiting a bit. As soon as I have enough content, like worthy content, so to speak, I would definitely get an author website.
Well, you're going to need a place to put the graphic for winning this indie book award. You're going to need that. You're going to need a place for that. You're going to need a place for your book cover. You're going to need a place to say, listen to my interview with the world-renowned interviewer, Alex Greenwood. There you go. As we wrap it up, though, Bunye, any advice for fledgling writers out there? Any thoughts about that? Any encouragement?
Keep reading and keep writing. And I know there'll be days when you feel like, you doubt yourself. But if it's something you really want to do, just keep doing it. Like there's no other way, really. There's no secret to it. Just keep doing what you love and keep reading, especially. The more you read, the better you write, I think.
I think you're 100% right. And my advice is a little more simple. Although you know what? You just changed how I think about this, because I was going to say, you can't write unless you put your butt in the chair. But you don't sit in the chair. You stand up to write.
Exactly. So I walk around.
Well, thanks a lot, man.
That would be a bad advice for me.
Oh my gosh, Bunye Ngene, I so appreciate you being on the show. Your book is a revelation. It's beautiful. I look forward to hearing. You will let me know, please, how you do when they announce everything. I'm going to put links in the show notes to everything I mentioned, listeners. You're going to want to follow him on Facebook, Insta, and Goodreads. Read the book. Write a great review because, well, I'm not going to tell you to write a great review. You'll just write a review because it's so good. Bunye Ngene, thank you so very much for joining us here on Mysterious Goings On.
Thank you, Alex. It was really nice talking to you.
You know, I love podcasting. I have since 2006, back when you had to use like a Dixie cup with string to make the thing work. And that's why I'm so excited that we recently moved Mysterious Goings On to Anchor FM to record our podcast. I gotta tell you, I don't regret it a bit. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Not going to lie to you, when I first heard about Anchor, I was a little dubious because I've been doing it the hard way for so long. But I got to tell you, it's very easy. Use a Stripe account. Get sponsors. You're not paying monthly hosting fees. The sound quality is great. The distribution is phenomenal. Friends, download the free Anchor app today if you want to start your own podcast, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Remember, you heard it here first on Mysterious Goings On.
This episode is brought to you by Spotify and Anchor, your source for the best in music, podcasts, and more. You can also be someone who helps bring more to your life with Mysterious Goings On by being a listener supporter. Please click on the link in our show notes and you will be offered 3 tiers for support. We have a 99-cent per month tier, $4.99 per month, and $9.99 per month. You can buy it with Google Pay or use with a credit card instead. This helps keep the show going. I could use your support if you really enjoy Mysterious Goings On, and lots of you have since 2016. We'd love to keep going, and some listener support like you would be very, very helpful to me in keeping the show moving right along there. So, as I always say at the end of every show, keep reading, but also keep listening, and please consider supporting Mysterious Goings On.
Thanks so much for listening to Mysterious Goings On. Don't forget we have a complete archive of all of our interviews, monologues, updates, live readings, dead readings. All of that stuff is available at mgopod.com. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to us so you never miss an episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the usual suspects. Please join us there. Again, don't forget, mgopod.com also has links where to find me on social media and how to get in touch in case you want to be a guest here on the show. Well, I think it's time that I move on for this week, but until next time, keep reading.